Well, all right. Hello, everyone. How are you? Thank you for joining me on this Monday afternoon. And here, I'm just going to make sure that all is looking good over here. Say hi in the chat. Thanks for joining me. Hello, Alberto. A little bit of a different setup today. Hi, my name is Jason Levine, and once again, today we're going to be talking about how to use color correction tools in Premiere Pro for the beginner, and really cover a lot of the ways that you access the color correction tools. A lot's changed in the last couple of versions, so if you've moved to Premiere coming from FCP or from Avid or from any other editor, hello, Diongo, hey, 9KA. Steve, the Das, Skardar, Fire Vieri, hey, Tech Connect. Nice to see you all. Strave, thank you. Gather the crowd. That's right. Shout it aloud. We've had a lot of changes over the last. We got great audience today. Woohoo! A lot of changes over the last couple of revisions, and especially if you're just new to Premiere and if you haven't really navigated through the effects panels or the workspaces, I really just want to take you through sort of all the various color options that you've got, sort of the way that many of you might start to look for color tools, and maybe you thought, Premiere doesn't have that many great ones, or it doesn't seem to have the ones I want. You're going to notice that there's an obsolete folder in there, which might confuse some. So I really just want to show you the basics of how to get in, and at the same time, show you a couple of really cool examples. Well, hopefully they're really cool. They're cool enough. Of some grading that I'm working on a new little vinyl documentary that I'm cutting just for fun. And, thank you, Mike Turner. The Das, doing well. Hello, Slovenia. Jules, what's happening? Kent, new art. So coming to you on a 24-70 lens here, for those of you so inclined. Got sick of my C920, so I wanted to go with some nicer glass. Hello, Brazil. And, we'll be evolving the setup as these streams go on. Many of you have probably already seen my colleagues Terry and Paul, and we've got a whole new series of stuff coming up over the coming months. Okay, so let's dive in. Let's get started. And I'll be I figured you'd go with to give you guys kind of a side view of me working rather than the head-on view. I could switch to the older cam, but it's just kind of blue and not as fun. So instead, we're just going to go back to this one. I think this one looks better. Okay. All right. Hello, Romania. Hello from Sweden. Hey, what's up, Vern? Okay. Hey, Francesco. All right, so let's start here and just kind of talk about where do you find all the color correction stuff? How are you going to just begin the process here? And again, I'm doing this little thing. I do these little kind of fun docs just to publish to my YouTube channel. And I invite many of you to please follow me there as well, if you would be so inclined. And one of the first places that you're probably going to go if you're looking for color correction tools is in the effects panel. Now, your UI, your interface may not look like mine. Everybody can customize their own. I'm using a modified workspace as it is, based off of the editing workspace. So again, all these workspaces may not look exactly the same. I tried to keep them somewhat standard, in particular, the color workspace, because that's something which we're going to focus a lot on. Side view, thanks, Vern. Hey, Daniel. Hey, Jorge. Irving from Mexico, very nice to see you. Hello, India. Rio de Janeiro. Hello, Spain. Oh, we got a fantastic crowd. So one of the first things you'll probably do is you're going to come up here, and like any person might, you're going to type in color. And when you do that, you're going to see all sorts of things start to happen. Now you're going to see we've got some brightness, contrast, and you'll notice it's got an icon next to it here. If you've never noticed these icons up above, this is going to indicate whether they're accelerated effects, meaning that we're leveraging GPU acceleration. So whether you've got an NVIDIA card and you want to do NVIDIA GPU-based acceleration, or the standard OpenCL for your operating system, or in the case of Mac OS, you've also got Metal support. this effect will play and render faster because it's GPU accelerated. So when you see that icon, that's what that means. Now you're also going to see this 32-bit color icon. I want you to pay really close attention to that one. Hello, Chicago. Hello, Ukraine. Because, hey, Nigeria. Because this is really ultimately where you want to be. So as I've said many times, and I want to also point out that if you want to learn really more about color, dive deep into color, two people come to mind in particular, Mr. Simon Walker from the UK and Mr. Robbie Carmen, both of whom have pretty much taught me everything I know about color correcting video. Highly invite you to Google them, find their training. These guys are amazing. They've both spoken for us many times at NAB and IBC and various broadcast and video trade shows and things for us in the past and over the years. They're great guys. They know everything, and they can really give you all everything you need to know. But we're going to take this from a beginner level. So 32-bit color. These are the kind of effects that generally you want to be using. Why? Well, very simply, Premiere Pro, you might know a couple years ago, people were always talking about, well, you're shooting 8-bit, but you want to export 10-bit, and how do you get into 10-bit? And before we really started talking about our native workflows and things like that, you had to do all these conversions and other NLEs, other editors, to get you into that greater than 8-bit space so that you could use higher bit depth color effects. Well, Premiere Pro is always working in this 32-bit float container. So here, like if you're shooting with DSLR, or you're shooting with your iPhone, or you're shooting with an 8-bit camera, even though you've got 8-bit footage, you still want to be working in this 32-bit environment, which means that you want to be using 32-bit color effects. It's going to give you a better looking export. It's also going to ensure that if you were doing things where you've got a lot of sort of fade to black, oftentimes you might see a lot of pixelating or banding. Again, if you stay kind of with 32-bit effects, it's going to minimize that. Now, if you combine 32-bit and non-32-bit effects, you're effectively going to be working and exporting in 8-bit, which means you're going to get some more of that banding, so you want to keep that in mind. Additionally, just as a little side here, even though this is beginner, if you're going to be working in tandem with After Effects, you also want to be sure, again, to make sure that After Effects bit depth is set to at least 16, again, if you're going to be doing color workflows and things, which is just going to ensure that you're greater than 8, so you're going to be able to take advantage of more of what these 32-bit effects have to offer. Hello, Palestine. Hello, Greece. New art. Could I repeat the names? Yeah, so I'll go through them here. So in any case, we're just kind of cycling through what happens if you type color directly. Hey, Premiere Gal. What's up? Again, another good friend of mine and someone whom you should all follow for weekly tutorials on Premiere Pro. Premiere Gal, you can find her here on YouTube. She's awesome. She's also got a video when we first kind of connected at Adobe Max. So you'll definitely want to check that out. In fact, I think she just put out a tutorial today. I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember what the topic was, Premiere Gal. You'll have to remind me. So, okay. So again, we're going to scroll down here, change color, color balance, equalize, leave color, lumetri color. Okay, as I choke on that. So lumetri color, this is where we're going to be. This is where we're going to spend most of our time today. You'll notice that it's accelerated, it's 32-bit, and it's also a YUV effect. Okay, the keys here are accelerated and 32. Lumetri is the key. This also comes from SpeedGrade. This is where we're going to be doing most of our work. Now again, I'm going to scroll down here a little bit more, because you'll see that we've got some other things in here, but this is where I wanted to get to, was this obsolete folder. Now, I'll be honest, as many revisions as we do, hey, what's up, New Jersey? Hey, Brian. Hey, Demetris. Hey, Diogo. So, as many revisions as we've had in Premiere, even I, friends, it's impossible to remember where certain things changed. Now, up until recently, and really prior to the Lumetri color panel coming to Premiere Pro, I always use the fast color corrector. You'll notice this is now in an obsolete folder, along with the RGB color corrector and the three-way color corrector. Now, all of these are valid. The fast color corrector is just that. It's a quick way to go in, adjust levels, adjust some basic hue, saturation, levels of things globally, and just kind of get to it. You'll notice that those are all accelerated, they're all 32-bit, and they're all fine. They're just older effects, and the workflows and how you get into them is not quite as eloquent as what I'll show you with Lumetri, okay? So now even with the three-way color corrector, we used to talk about this one a lot because this used to be the only native effect, or the native way in Premiere Pro, to do what's known as HSL secondaries, secondary color correction. You can still do it there. It's very convoluted. It's very, I was going to say convoluted. It's a terrible word. We got a big international audience. It's very difficult to use in the three-way color corrector. So do it if you want to. Have fun, experiment. we're calling it obsolete because that's kind of the old way to do it, all right? You can still do it that way. Now, you'll also notice here under color, I happen to have some of my favorite third-party plugins. In fact, Premiere Gal, give you a little plug. Hey, what's up, Hodgepub? Did a video not long ago. Actually, she's done several on various plugins. I think that she did one for Faytech, and Audio Network, the royalty-free music panel for Premiere. Third-party graphics and effects plugins you're going to find here too. And again, these just happen to be under color because color's in the folder name. All right. So that's what you'd see. That's what you're going to get when you search on color. And you can simply, if you wanted to apply any one of these, two ways that you can do it. You can either drag and drop the effect onto the clip, or if the clip is in focus and highlighted here, in this case it's in white, showing that the cursor that's like the active clip, you can actually just double click on the effect here and it will apply them. Legit. However, what I'm going to show you today is really, I don't like saying things like best or greatest or whatever. It's the easiest way to start working with color, particularly, thank you, Mohammed, particularly if you worked in Lightroom or Camera Raw with Photoshop. All right. This is going to open up the color universe for you. Sounds like I'm narrating, sounds like I'm telling you a tale. Maybe I am. It happens to be true. Lumetri will change the way you think about color forever. It did for me. I'm the first to tell you, friends, I have still have a bit, color anxiety. I'm not a colorist. I didn't study color theory. I freak out and get nervous and don't know what to do. Lumetri has changed all that. So let me show you how. How do we get to Lumetri? Well, again, we can select it here, double click and apply it to the clip. However, if I simply go up to the top here, now again, you may not have all of these bars enabled or whatever. You can always find your workspaces under Window Workspaces. And we're going to switch over to this one here called Color. And when we do that, now you're going to see that it automatically opens up the Lumetri color panel for me here on the right-hand side. Now we're going to go through all the various elements of this and really showcase why this is such a wonderful way to begin working with color. And again, if you've ever done any photo editing, photo color correction, I should say, in Lightroom or Photoshop via Camera Raw, certainly the first section of Lumetri, known as Basic Correction, is going to look and feel very familiar to you because in fact it's all of the same sliders, basically just reimagined for video, okay? So it's not just porting over code, they actually change these to work better on video. So for an example, the exposure under tone is not merely gain up and down. They actually are using algorithms that simulate true camera exposure. And there's a couple of different cameras that were used in the creation of that algorithm to simulate that. So it's going to give you a better look on your video content first and foremost. Yeah, Evil Cerise, you remember, yes, I suffer from font anxiety and I'm recovering from my color anxiety. And I have Simon Walker and Robbie Carmen to thank for that. Okay, so again, doing this little documentary here on vinyl, and this is from a recent reissued release of an album called Super Super Blues from 1968, and this is kind of giving you an example. Drop the volume down here. Kind of giving you an example of what it looks like. Now, I happen to have already applied a grade to this. You might be thinking, wow, that looks pretty awesome out of the camera. Now, this was shot with the iPhone 6S. So this is actually 4K content, also worth pointing out. And in fact, tomorrow on Facebook, I'll be having another live stream where I'll talk about mobile workflows. But I want to point out real quickly, we'll cover this in another live stream, I'm actually working off of proxy files here. Real quickly, proxy files are lightweight, smaller frame size versions of this 4K content. In this case, we're actually looking at a 1280p, 720p, 1280 by 720 video clip here. If I want to go back to my full resolution clip, which I would typically do if I'm doing color correction, I'm simply going to toggle off this button. And just like that, when that button turns gray, now we're working off of the native media. Click it back on again, now we're working on a proxy. Why do we use proxies at all? It's just going to give us better playback. It's going to give us better look, better performance as we're scrubbing and cutting. And even when we're dropping effects and doing some very basic fast corrections, again, not looking for sort of clinical detail, but just, all right, let's drop exposure or adjust contrast or highlights or shadows. working with proxies can be great. All right, and I'll cover that in a future lesson. Someone was just asking, is it better to do your color correction with adjustment layers, Demetrius? Yeah, absolutely. And again, now I've got a separate one where we'll talk about adjustment layers, and I'll show this here too. Just like the adjustment layers that you use in Photoshop, just like the adjustment layers that you use in After Effects, the same the same modus operandi applies here. You can drop an adjustment layer in an available track, and if you wanted to do a global grade, a global contrast boost or lift, or a global manipulation of the curves, or just the master RGB, you can apply that via an adjustment layer, and that would affect every clip that's underneath it. So that's a great question. I will show that at the end. And oh, Francesco, yeah, it's Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf. Yeah, so BB King, it's not that particular one, but it's Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, and Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, and Bo Diddley, Super Blues. Super Blues, not to be confused with Super Blues is Muddy Waters, Little Walter, and Bo Diddley. And I can't remember which one BB King is on, but they did all these really cool blues albums in '68. We're getting sidetracked. That's the essence of live. Do you guys and gals and humans around the world love live stuff? It's everywhere now. Okay, so let me go into my effects panels here. And actually here, you know what? Let me go back. Sorry, I clicked on the effects workspace, not my effects panel. So let me go into my effects controls. I'm actually going to drop this up here. And once again, you'll see that I actually have the Lumetri color effect applied. So just to kind of show you, this is the before. And by the way, this also leverages a feature in Premiere Pro called uninterrupted playback. So while this clip is playing, I can actually turn the effect on or off. I can also manipulate this effect while I'm playing. So all the parameters, and we'll be doing this in a moment, so don't worry, you'll get to see this happen in real time. But the key here is that now, again, part of the flexibility and part of using these GPU accelerated effects like Lumetri is that you have the ability to do these things. Play it back, manipulate in real time. You don't have to do it frame by frame. Kind of used to be that way, isn't really that way anymore. With some things, it still can be, believe me. And 4K is a beast. So, you know, and 8K is even more so. So you just be aware. But you can, in fact, enable and disable playback while you're making those changes. Very cool. All right, so let's go ahead and just kind of start this one from scratch and see what it looked like and what we were kind of working with. So I'm just going to real quickly reveal this in the project. I'll make a new sequence from this clip. This is also a good way just to kind of showcase to you how to even get started with the sequence. Again, I'll be showing more of this tomorrow. The easiest way is to simply right-click, control-click, and choose New Sequence from Clip. Okay, that's going to take all the attributes of that clip, make a sequence with the proper frame size, frame rate, pixel aspect ratio. Hey, Samar, thank you very much. And it's just the easiest way to do it. Now, if you're feeling brave and if you want to set a specific attribute for your sequence size, you can in fact go to the new item menu, choose sequence, and there you're going to have, of course, you know, a huge variety of different presets. Everything from Red, DSLR, standard DNx HD, Canon AVC Intra, ARRI presets, and then of course you can customize your own here too. Probably in if I do 10 or 15 edits or different pieces of work in Premiere a week, I don't think I go to that dialog more than once, because normally it's right-click, new sequence from clip. All right, so new sequence from clip. Okay, so we're going to start by just again looking at this, playing it back, and as long as I'm in my color workspace, and you can see that our clip here there's only the one, so it's active, it's in focus here, we're automatically inside the Lumetri color panel. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go top to bottom, all right? This is a 45-minute-ish stream, so you're going to get, I'm going to really describe what all of these different sections of Lumetri do. Again, this is for beginners, so we're not going to cover how to use every single individual parameter here. That would take more than 45 minutes. But we're really going to go through how it works and kind of the signal flow with it all. Now, for starters, and this is a little bit advanced, I'm going to come back to this towards the end here. You'll notice that you've got master with the clip name and then just the clip name. What does that mean? Well, we've got something in Premiere, and Premiere Pro understands this concept, hey Croatia again, of master clip effects and just individual clip effects. This is something that we actually borrowed from SpeedGrade. Now, for those of you who've worked with us over the last couple of versions, You'll know that this was amazing when we brought this to Premiere. Now, by default, when you select a clip in the timeline and you start applying Lumetri color correction to it, you're going to be applying that to the instance of the clip. That's why this is blue. Remember, our blue here is going to indicate kind of the focus. Now, if we were on the master, what that really means is that if we were to take this same clip and cut it up and use it in this sequence and a couple of other different sequences, any color correction, any color changes that we made to the master here, I'm pointing there or there. I have no sense of direction. Up there. You know where I'm talking about. Do it here. What that means is that anytime that clip gets used in any sequence in this project, it's going to have the same color corrections already applied. That's pretty dope because, again, you might do some quick fixes. Maybe you're going to apply some input LUTs, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Maybe you're going to do a simple re-white balancing of a bunch of clips. Or maybe you're going to just white balance this one clip, but you know it's going to be cut up into like 10 different sections, right? This happens to only be 15 seconds. Maybe this is 3 minutes long, okay? So by applying it to the master, the color corrections that you apply will always go with it. When it's on the clip itself, I can make this thing black and white, green, blue, purple, whatever, heavily vignetted, monochromatic, what have you. If I bring another instance of the same clip into a timeline, this timeline or another, it will look like this. It's going to look untreated, unprocessed, okay? Because up here, this indicates it's just for this instance of the clip. Now, what's cool about that, again, is that you can have effects, LUTs, whatever, applied to the master, and then still do individual revisions, treatments, corrections on the individual clips as they exist in the timeline, in the sequence. Does that make sense? Skardar, master thing is a lifesaver. Yes. Sophie, still have a better sense of direction? I don't know, Sophie. We're going to have to see. Mine's pretty bad. Jan Eric is here. Very nice to see you. Do I need to install QuickTime Pro or all codecs included for Premiere already? Information design. So on the Mac side, you're going to be good to go. I'm assuming you're saying that for if you're on the Mac. For import and export of all QuickTime flavors. Now on the PC, Windows, what was it, the summertime? There were some things with QuickTime and security, blah, blah, blah. I don't really know all the details. We've made it now so that you'll be able to import and work with that content. I don't know that it's all flavors, okay? I believe we actually have, and I don't know if anyone from Adobe support is in the room with me. Certainly, for many of the commonly used QuickTime codecs, we've built in, even on the Windows side, native supports that you can keep bringing those in and keep working with them. Now, export on Windows, totally different story. You've never been able to do that natively. That's an Apple, Microsoft thing. There are third-party plugins that will give that to you. So, Hussein, thank you very much. Lumetri is included in Premiere Pro, and that's why I was showing you the color workspace, because just as you asked, even I right, live, never really dabbled with workspaces until Lumetri. Yes, I would reorganize panels, but having this color workspace in particular, it forced me to go there and it forced me to really investigate all the various things and the benefits of working this way. So yes, Lumetri is included. It's part of it. It's the engine. It's the color engine that's providing you with this, all the things that Premiere can do with color natively here. Okay, so master clip effects versus individual clip effects. Now you kind of know how to do that. Again, if I wanted to do something on the master, just real quickly to show you here, if I double clicked on it to bring it up into the source monitor, where now I've got the master applied, let's just for giggles here, let's just see that if I made a real quick temperature change, and notice that my source is now much cooler, and notice the program monitor, I wasn't even doing it on this clip, but because it's on the master, it's automatically affecting this side too. All right, so master, individual, real easy to understand, real cool. All right, now again, I'm gonna come back to input LUTs real briefly. Again, for those of you who've moved from the previous CC version 2015 to 2017, we added a whole bunch of new creative looks. We also used to have we had several dozen input LUTs in the basic correction panel here that conform to a lot of the different popular cameras, GoPros, Nikon DSLRs, Canon DSLRs, Arri, Red, and the like. And typically, traditionally, what you're doing there is there's one of two things that you can do with an input LUT. A lot of times your camera shoots in a certain color space, and you want to, perhaps you shoot into a particular LUT. You can take that same LUT, import it into Premiere, apply it, and then it either flattens it out, or perhaps it applies a color style, color profile, which you would use in that camera to get like sort of its very punchy visual look. A lot of the Canon C series have those, and you'll see those actually in my list here. We've thinned out this list now because it also used to be that if you're going to be using any of our speed looks, and these are the dozens and dozens that I'm going to cover here in a moment that you'll see inside the creative panel, you actually had to apply an input LUT before you began working with the creative looks. That is not the case anymore. So again, previous versions of Premiere, like I would shoot with my Nikon DSLR. I always shoot flat anyway, or as flat as I can get it in camera. But there is an additional LUT in here that I would apply if I were going to be using the creative speed looks. Those are the ones that are notated by SL. You don't have to do that anymore. Now, there's still reasons for input LUTs, and again, I'll come back to that in just a moment. But that's just kind of evidencing where that is, and also the ability to browse and import your own. A lot of people ask, like, hey, you know, Technicolor offers their 3D LUTs. Can I use those either in input LUT or creative? Yes, absolutely. You can import those standard files. Okay. Just looking down here. All right, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Tech Connect. Master clip effects are totally non-destructive. Yes, of course. So everything here, and that's a great question. All of this is non-destructive, right? It's always non-destructive. So you can always go back. I mean, just like, and it's not exactly the same, but I liken it to imagery because this is how I was sort of hipped to it. You know, it's no different in many ways to what you're doing in Lightroom or Camera Raw. Like Lightroom, you're in the develop module. You're basically modifying metadata, right? Which is just changing the display of the color and the parameters on screen. Same concept here. So it's fully editable at all times. So when we go to our white balance section here in basic correction, this was something that got added, again, only in the December release. Which is the standard white balance eyedropper. Don't have to tell you all what that does. I think you know by now. We didn't have it in the original Lumetri panel. So it's a very welcomed addition. So again, I could come in here and find kind of a neutral point, whitish gray. You can see it didn't really change. The white balance on this is actually pretty accurate. That is pretty correct as to what that was supposed to look like. But you can actually see that it made a slight modification immediately to my temperature settings. Now, once again, whether you do the manual white balance selection or you simply come in here and adjust these yourself, all right, you see how easy it is. I mean, it's not unlike working in the develop module. So right away, right at the top, set your white balance, start adjusting temperature and tint. Doable. In the three-way color corrector, in the fast color corrector, in levels and traditional curves that we had, I didn't even know where to start. Because it wasn't all sort of right there in front of you in this logical order. Signal flow, and by that I mean sort of order of operations, is very logically laid out in the Lumetri color panel. That's why this is so, so cool. Skardar, does this apply to grading raw or ProRes footage? Absolutely. So, in fact, the non-proxied versions of these are, in fact, it's a mixture. I've got ProRes 422 HQ and some are GoPro Cineform. I just transcoded into those. Now, an exception would be if you had something like, say, Red, R3D media, where you can actually access the RMD files. They have their own, right? They've got their own color correction options. You can still access those directly, non-destructively, directly in Premiere through the effects under Master, and that gives you a whole bunch of parameters that you'll only have for that file type. But yeah, same concept applies. Nice. Yeah, thank you, Brian. I know. We're so glad. It's the little things, right? To have that white balance selector in there. Amazing. All right. So again, now at this point, there's a couple things we could do. So I'm gonna skip around a little bit because I want to talk about basic correction and creative. Now, one of the great things about Lumetri was that it introduced color presets. This is something that we just didn't have before. So again, a quick way to give a stylized look to your content. Now, the panel here, the window under Creative, will show you what the sort of untouched, uncorrected version of your footage looks like. And then either if you click down into the menu here, or if you use these left-right arrows, you can start to scroll through various looks. Okay, so we've got a whole bunch of film stock emulations. This Fuji, so it's Fuji stock printed on Kodak. That's what those two names in there mean. You can start to kind of cycle through these and get an idea of what one click will do. I love this. I absolutely love this because, again, it's just a great way to get started. That doesn't mean that you're going to, get a job color grading, Gareth Edwards' next film, but it's a good way to get in and to break some of the fear. I can't emphasize enough. If you've never done, I did photo color correction and stuff and editing for years, even manually. When it came to video, I have my colleague, friend, some of you may know him from Sweden, Max Hagelstam. I had Max do my color corrections for me up until about 4 years ago. Because I just had too much fear. I didn't understand color wheels, and I just never felt comfortable kind of getting in there and doing stuff because it didn't look and feel familiar. And I had no starting point. Now you've got a starting point. So again, you can cycle through these and find one that looks pretty good. All right. And maybe we'll take something like blue steel. So let's bounce back out here, single click on that, and it instantly applies. Now, right away, you're going to notice it's kind of dark and probably a little too dark. In fact, we're starting to kind of, the black level looks a bit crushed to me. We've also got some highlights that appear a little bit blown out. Now, I'm going to have a separate one where we talk about lumetri scopes. Oh, I'm getting a little feedback. Okay. I don't want to cover sort of how to read these scopes. That's not really part of the beginner thing here. Two things that you can keep in mind, however, if you are looking at these scopes. If your content is hitting 0 here, and I mean flatlining at 0, that means that the blacks are totally crushed. You've crushed the black level, no shadow detail there. Similarly, if you've got stuff hitting the top of the line here, that's telling you that you've got highlights that are clipped. So the data underneath is gone. That's how it was captured at the sensor. So there's really not much that you can do about that. However, using different LUTs and by making some subtle corrections and basic correction, you can attenuate or fine-tune some of those just to kind of bring them back in range. Okay, now this becomes more important when you're working in broadcast and delivering to sort of, again, TV, Netflix, broadcast media. This is where Simon and Robbie can really give you all the info you need there. But for most of us, you don't want stuff pegging the top or pegging the bottom, all right? So one of the things that I might do, first of all, is I can come in here. Now, exposure-wise with this LUT, is it just too much? Is the intensity too much? So you have this intensity control here. Just zoom in so you can see it. And as I adjust the intensity, it does just that. We're seeing less and less of that LUT applied. Okay, so here it is with nothing. Here it is with 200%. That's way too much. And maybe we just want about 80. Now again, levels-wise, we're still kind of shadow detail, still some clipped highlights. You can see that was daylight coming in, all right? Presets give me life, Sophie. So true. Question, Jan Eric. What's a non-destructive way to bring a sequence into AE for further post-processing? Yes. So very quickly on Eric, if you're just talking about you're doing some color, you're going to do additional work there, you can simply right-click on a clip in a sequence and choose to replace it with an After Effects comp. That's going to send you over to After Effects. Everything that's in there will carry over. And now, as of, again, I think it's last June's release, you also have the Lumetri color effect in After Effects. So the same effects, the same bit depths, the same quality, everything color consistency. And then you can either, because it's dynamically linked, you go back to Premiere, anything that you've done in AE shows up here. You can export directly from here, or you could, in theory, export through After Effects, depending upon what you're doing. Most likely, if you're doing this process, though, you're going to come back to Premiere and then export through Media Encoder. At the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter because Media Encoder can be open by itself, and you can import an After Effects comp or a Premiere project and export that way. You never even have to open the applications. They'll run headlessly in the background. So, okay, so as I'm looking at this, again, like it's still kind of dark and not quite what I want. So again, we can start by playing with exposure, maybe just a little bit. It doesn't really need too much to me. But contrast, this is where we might be able to restore some of those problems in the highlights. Now, one of the first things that I'll typically do, actually, when I've got something like this, and I really couldn't control too much of it on the phone, is I'll just start pulling down the highlights. Now, again, we're going to have a little bit of clipping in here because it was just kind of captured that way. Some of these film stock LUTs, by the way, let me see if I can find one for you. Some of these film stock LUTs will take care of that. All right. Ooh, look at that. So right there, I love this one. This is one of my favorites. And in fact, I don't know if Stan Arthur is watching. Stan is another great resource, Premiere Pro resource for editing and color. Fuji F125, Kodak 2395. So look at that. It's going to give you this kind of softer, film-like 70s look. Oh, and by the way, you can always, before and after. So there's before, kind of very high contrast. After, lower contrast, more film-like. But again, look, particularly in the reds and greens, it softens some of those really blown out highlights. You still have some of that there in the blue channel. You know, again, you can play around more with that as you get more familiar with working with scopes, or even just visually to you, if it doesn't look right, there's other things you can do. Some of it might be lost, and you're just going to have to deal with it that way. That's okay. As you get better with color, likely you'll be able to fine-tune those even more. But again, one good thing to do is start to kind of drop your highlights down, maybe play a bit with the contrast here. Again, you've got your shadows. So once again, if you've ever worked with shadow highlight in Photoshop or in this exact same control in Lightroom's Develop module, it functions the same way, okay? Whites, now this is an interesting thing. You might think, oh, let's bring the white level down. But look what happens. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to zoom in here. You can actually see that you're starting to get this like weird, blocky pixelation. Not good, right? So if you're starting to see that, don't drop those whites. In fact, increasing them a bit actually smooths and softens some of that overblown light right there. You want it harsh and pixelated and 8-bit looking, or just kind of smoother, right? And as you, perhaps you'll vignette the edges of that, so it'll take away some of that harshness. Lots of options here. Similarly, you can play with the actual black level slider here, and then, you know, sort of accordingly readjust contrast. Now you'll notice down in Creative, you've also got faded film. So this again is going to kind of help you with some of that contrast. And watch what happens as I kind of cross this, what is it, about 50% threshold? Take a look at the scopes here. Cross 50, ooh. So those really harsh, blown out highlights on the scopes now, they're showing me that they're actually less blown out. Now this might not be the kind of contrast and look you want, but we are able to kind of restore and play with some of these. Look, we're getting stylistic. I'm not saying that this is the best way to color correct at all, by any stretch. Just showing you that faded film is going to do that. It's going to give you that slightly faded, you know, 16 and or 35 mil look, depending upon how much noise you've got. Additionally, I've got a lot of noise in this clip. So that faded film kind of takes away some of that harshness. See that here? Now some of that is actually just the faux chrome metal of my turntable, but some of that is also it's chroma noise. So by adding a little faded film to this, it kind of takes the edge off, right? Grain and noise can be cool. If you're seeing red, green, and blue pixels, maybe not so cool. So faded film, great option there to kind of, and you can use that on any of these LUTs, not just the film stock ones. It's going to give you that same kind of feel, regardless of where you use it. Notice you've also got sharpen. Now, a lot of, this is something which any colorist will tell you. Again, I had to learn this the hard way. Oh, hi, Brian. Thank you for that. Yeah, sharpening, you know, careful, right? You got to be very careful when you're working with sharpening. No different than in imagery. Something that I learned from Terry White years ago. Don't over sharpen, you know. Now again, I'm shooting it flat in my D800 here. I turn the sharpening all the way down, so my images when I'm shooting with that DSLR almost appear a little soft. So I can sometimes add back in some sharpening, but just use it sparingly. That's all I'm going to tell you there. Again, this is a good example of where when you apply it, let's like kind of soften it to really check what's happening. If you're in the proxy file, it's going to look a lot different. All right, so you're going to want to be, if you're using proxies, make sure that you're kind of on the native media just to check, particularly where sharpening is concerned, because it's real easy to overdo and make things like not look so great. Panagiotis, all right. Yes, oh, I love scopes. The eye can be easily fooled, and that's it. And again, I don't want to focus, I'll even kind of take these away for a moment because that's kind of less beginnery, but those are really the two things. You know, it's like anything. You know, when you're working out, you're lifting, you don't want to like bang, bang, hit the ceiling, hit the floor. You kind of always want to keep everything fluid, right? Don't hit the absolute top. Don't go all the way to the bottom. Same with audio recording. Don't peak at 0. You know, don't have everything at -145. You kind of want stuff median in the middle. That's oversimplifying, but it's a good way to get started. Okay, and then you'll see also, again, borrowing from Lightroom, we've got Vibrance. What does Vibrance do? It does the same thing that it does on your images, albeit here on video. And then an additional saturation control, adding some additional saturation based on the look. So you've got kind of this combination of intensity and saturation, right, that you can use, and they work together in tandem. And you also have saturation of the master clip with your tonal corrections here too, okay? So lots of different places to saturate, lots of different places to modify black and white level, highlights and shadows. Okay, so that's the creative panel, all right? You've been working out wrong, right, Sophie? All right, now additionally, if you just kind of look down here in creative, again, don't need to go through all these parameters, but you'll see if you want to affect the highlight tints, so maybe we want to warm those up or actually cool them off. This is getting a little less cool, right? We kind of warmed this up a bit. I can start to drag the highlights towards the blue, and you can actually see what's happening there quite nicely in real time. Similarly with shadows, you've got a tint balance control. Now, the other really cool thing that we did when we introduced Lumetri was redesign and reimagine RGB and hue saturation curves. And let's go to another clip here, since I've been on this one for a long time. So here, let me go back to this sequence here. So that was the final grade that I did before. Here's the one that we just did now. Again, very different looks, different feels. That's the essence of color correction and color grading, right? It changes the mood, right? This one, this is a blues record. So we got kind of that cool blue feel. Well, maybe I don't want it to be cool blue there, so we can have kind of this warmer, retro-y sort of feel, all right? Same clip, same stuff, different LUTs, different parameters adjusted in basic, okay? Real easy to get in there. Now, a lot of people love using RGB curves. I'm not among those people, with the exception of kind of the master lift. Again, sometimes doing a little, like just a little S to kind of pop, make things in general kind of pop out a bit. You can see kind of what that does right there. All right, kind of just gives it a little bit more, you know. But you've got individual control, obviously, over red, green, and blue here. This functions just like the curves, the reimagined curves in SpeedGrade, in After Effects, and of course in Photoshop and elsewhere. Also, you've got your hue saturation curve here. Oh, no, I'm just going to bounce to another clip. Let's go to this one. Quickly, hold on, I'm going to turn my proxies on for you. So this is another shot here, just to show you again. This is the before. So again, here, losing a lot of shadow detail. Like on the stream, I don't even know if you can see. Yeah, you can't even see it because the black level isn't actually crushed. We're getting that on the transmission there, but it just appears like it's just going into darkness, right? That's not good. We don't want that. So again, we can fix that. And when I used that another LUT and a combination of controls and basic, ooh, kind of just got some more retro-y, a bit more smooth. You can really see a lot of the detail there. All right, again, there was a lot of noise in here, but by using that LUT, it took a lot of that harshness right out. And yeah, Brian, right, looks nice. What kind of sorcery is this, sweetheart? Yeah, this is the Lumetri color panel and working with LUTs. And in this case, this one I'm using the Fuji Eterna 250D Codec 2395. So again, a lot of 2395 with various Fuji flavors implemented beforehand. So very, very quickly change the whole look and feel to this, right? So again, let's go back down here. We're going to keep scrolling. RGB curves, hue saturation. If I wanted to simply pop out, so this was one of those kind of limited edition orange colored vinyls. I want to really pop out more of the orange there. How do I do just that? Well, there's a couple ways, and I'm going to show you two ways in just a second here. One real quick way, though, is if you plot a couple of points in your hue sat wheel here and just kind of drag up, I can actually start to increase the level of just the orange here. All right, you can see I can go like way too much. Or similarly, pull it down. But it's only affecting that particular hue, right? And you can have multiple points along this wheel. Is this kind of like secondaries? Not exactly, but it's definitely color targeting, right? So again, you just want to kind of lift up or warm up or brighten or add a little bit more red or blue or whatever, you can do that here. And you can do a combination of various things in this wheel as well. So you want to go for the transformery look, you know, teal and orange. You can very easily achieve that with your hue saturation curves. And again, these can be turned on or off. So there, it's funny. There it is before and after. And actually, the after doesn't look so bad. Okay. Now, again, I want to point out, because a lot of people have been asking, oh yes, custom profiles like in LR, yes. We still have access to traditional color wheels. So if you like working with shadows, midtones, highlights, as you may have in SpeedGrade or in Resolve or in other places, you have access to those here as well. All right. I'm not going to show you how to use these because I'm a nightmare with these. This is where they are. Now this is more advanced, right? You're not just targeting everything I'm kind of doing up to this point is sort of global. Now I'm going to show you secondaries in just a moment. You can see it's the next in line, right? Talk about signal flow and why the design of this panel for color correction is so freaking good. It's because of the signal flow. But this is where you can find your color wheels. And if you like to work that way and you want to actually see how that works, the same engine powering those that we have in SpeedGrade, similar feel, that's where you're going to do that. All right, so now I want to talk about secondaries. So let me see, I gotta move my workspace here. Let's go to editing for a second. And bear with me as I pull open. First we'll do, yeah, okay, perfect. All right, so this is a clip that I shot. This is a clip that I shot back in 2010. Actually, Terry White was with me, and we were in Egypt. We were actually at the pyramids at Giza. And I was, once again, creating a little documentary, which has never come out, never been released. Hashtag cutting room floor. And when I look at this clip, what do I want to do to it? Now, you can see I shot this. This is 2010 or 2009. This was shot with a Canon 7D. And I want to improve his skin tone. Make it a little more cinematic. It looks kind of flat. But I don't want to affect all the other colors. I may do that. I may vignette, I may do other sort of global corrections, but I really want to focus on the skin tones, okay? Now, how can I do that? Well, I'm going to do that with HSL secondaries. And real quickly, just to show you what I was able to already achieve, let me go ahead and show you what I did. Let me go ahead and turn on Lumetri Color. And right there, whoa, nice. Right? Now, we're now playing this back.
And it mistakes to say ancient hieroglyphic because hieroglyphic is not language. Just one way
Flat.
of writing. Because
Cinematic.
4 ways of writing our ancient language. Hieroglyphic, one of them.
Thank you, Mohammed. Saves me so much time, Craig. Oh, so glad. By the way, someone's asking about copy and pasting attributes between clips. Just to kind of show you. Yes, if you right-click on a clip and you choose copy, and then you go to another clip and you want to apply the same color settings or the same any effect, audio or video effects, to another clip, right-click, paste attributes, and when you do that, it's going to show you whatever you had applied to that clip. By the way, that also includes if you made adjustments to the motion effect, opacity, including your blend modes that you may have chosen, any kind of time remapping, and the actual effects. And as I mentioned, I don't have any audio effects on here, but you can paste those. That's how you move them between clips, okay? So very nice, very eloquent way to do it. Kind of just functions the way you'd expect. But I love this because this was a really simple process to get this from flat to just, oh, look at this beautiful skin tone. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that from scratch. So I've got the actual native clip here. Now, by the way, this was applied as a clip effect, not a master, which means that when I bring in this new clip again, it's flat, right? So again, that's the difference between the master clip version and the instance clip color correction that you saw at the top of Lumetri, which we're going to go back to right now. So let's go to our color workspace. By the way, people ask me all the time, do I have to use the color workspace for Lumetri? Absolutely not. And in fact, in your effects controls, you'll see you can just apply the Lumetri color effect, twirl it down, and you've got all of your parameters. There's your white balance, eyedropper, you know, all the various things that it can do. You just have a less, you know, again, color wheels, you know, creative, Creative, sadly, doesn't have the preview window inside the effects panel. So, you know, you lose some of the visual feedback, right, of working with the color workspace. That's really it. You don't have to do it that way. I just really like it. So, nice. All right. So, yes, we are. Believe me, I've stolen some of J.J. Abrams' flare techniques in some various videos, for sure. All right, so let's get into this. So to do secondary color correction, and by that I simply mean we're going to target a specific color range and only apply color correction to that color range, in this case skin tones, we're now going to focus on the section of Lumetri called HSL secondary. All right, and you've got a couple of different ways to do this. You've got some preset colors, which again, if it was kind of close to this color red, I could click on that and then adjust the hue, saturation, and luminance controls. Easier, however, is to start by taking the eyedropper and click on his skin, all right? And you can see that it shows kind of basically things in the same kind of skin tone range. I can go ahead and turn on the mask that it's creating, all right? And I can make adjustments. Now, I don't know that we need to adjust too much on the hue side here. I think that's pretty much exactly where we want to be, all right? Under saturation, I'm going to guess, yep, all right? We want to bring in, again, we're trying to bring in all the areas that represent kind of the skin. Now, you know, he's got some of the skin coming through his beard there, so we may have to play with this a little bit. Totally non-destructive, editable at all times. Come down to luminance, and by the way, I'm adjusting this via the top triangle. The top triangle is representing sort of the amount, and the bottom triangle is representing the feather. All right, so you can see I can kind of feather that off a little bit. Maybe come back to saturation here. Some more of that in. All right. You can see we're picking up other like skin tones in the vicinity. That's fine, right? That's okay. That's what we're doing. So that's what you're seeing, these other areas here. That's not like, oh, he screwed up the mask. No. Those are other areas referencing the same color range, okay? So now that we've got the mask, you'll see that we have options here. We can refine it with a little denoising if we're getting some noise. We can blur it, again, if we're getting some of that weird kind of pixelization that we don't love. Or, very simply, now we can go down to correction. And I can simply say, let's just warm that up. All right? And I always tend to say, like, let's make this, you know, I always reference Transformers, but you get the idea. Now, if I want to add, because we're kind of missing this area right here above his mustache, I can take the additive eyedropper, click in that space. Ooh, it just kind of filled that in. Again, I can take a look at the mask. Oh yeah, much better, all right? Again, couple areas where we've got the highlights on his nose. Maybe we want to add some of those back in, but very, very quickly, I can really fine tune the skin tone, okay? And again, we're working off of a proxy here. So this is like a low-res version, and it still looks awesome. Now, as I mentioned, if we want to then start doing more global changes, you saw before I'd applied like a vignette. I can do a little cinematic vignetting here, the same vignette that you've got in Lightroom. We didn't apply any LUTs here at all. I might actually bring down those highlights a bit. Take a look at our scopes. All right. Looking real good here. Probably even give it a little bit more exposure if we wanted to. Just a tick. More global saturation. All right. Come into our effects controls.
Some language. We call it
Before,
ancient Egyptian language.
And notice, only the skin. Notice the guy in the green shirt. Green shirt not changing. Red colors in the background not changing. Yellow hat not changing. Only skin tone. Changing a little bit of the pyramid there because it happens to share some of the same tones. All right? Super cool. I overdid that a little bit. I went full Transformer. Anyone who's seen the Transformer movies, you know what I'm talking about.
And it's mistake.
All right.
To say.
But you get the idea. Okay? So that's a way that you can use HSL secondaries for skin tone. Now, I love Video Copilot. And of course, yeah, I mean, Andrew Kramer, he is, you know, one of the godfathers of effects and After Effects and post-processing and everything. He's amazing. He also speaks for us at NAB and also has a whole series of training things that you can watch for color grading and correction and effects in Premiere and After Effects. Okay. Now, the very last thing I'm going to show you, because we've got 6 more minutes and it's been good. How do you feel about this so far? We've covered everything in Lumetri. right? We've made our whole way all the way down through all the various parameters, HueSat, color wheels, HSL secondary, and then the last one here is vignette all the way at the bottom. We didn't have a native vignette in Premiere for a really long time. So this is once again another one of those very welcomed, useful additions. I know a lot of people say vignettes are passé. To that I say, I love vignetting. I love it. I don't care. You dig? All right. So the very last thing here, let's go to this one. All right. So this is, again, a little clip that I shot of the Sphinx at Giza. And you might think to yourself, oh, well, not bad. You know, decent, reasonably sunny day. By the way, for those of you camera enthusiasts, you'll notice that when I zoomed in there, this was with a kit lens. It was a non-fixed aperture, so that's why you're seeing that little black flash, if you see that there, non-fixed aperture. The only time I've ever used one of those. We were fortunate. It was a very beautiful, clear day. However, the sky that you're seeing there, you can dig it. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you again, Brian. Thank you, Mel. That's awesome, Mel. Thank you. Hey, Zweiter, so incidentally, and I want to point out, you will be able to watch this replay immediately after I'm done streaming right here on the Adobe Creative Cloud channel. So absolutely check that out. Also worthwhile, thank you all of you for joining me today. My first stream of the new year on the Creative Cloud channel. I'll be doing more of these every week on Premiere and After Effects, auditions. So stick around. Also, my colleagues, Paul Tranny, Rufus Deutschler, Terry White, Michael Shez, you'll be able to see us all on here a couple times a week, or at least twice a week, I believe. And we've got a 3-day live stream coming up tomorrow based around photo compositing. So Terry White will be co-hosting with Michael Shez. We're going to have Corey Barker. We've got some amazing guests coming. You'll definitely want to check that out. And that's like 8 hours. So you're going to get to see a lot of cool stuff. Once again, though, coming back 5 to 1. We were talking about HSL secondaries because the blue sky that you see is fake. It wasn't like that. The sky was totally blown out. Turn off HSL secondaries. Ah! How many of you have shot something like this? No. Like, how many times am I going to get to Giza? And I was fortunate. It was clear. It was, not very populated that day. But, oh, man. Like, that was the sky? So what do? HSL secondaries to the rescue. So here's my Sphinx clip. Once again, let's go ahead and choose new sequence from clip. All right. And this little section right here. I had edited the clip before. All right. So here we go. Set our color. Now here you can see I could probably get away with choosing this white one. It looks pretty darn close. There is some slight blue in there. So, either way, all right, let's click inside, which, by the way, you can also click and drag the eyedroppers. I don't find that quite as effective, but you can do that. And let's go ahead and turn on that mask again. So here again for hue, all right, we're going to make some adjustments to the hue. All right. Little adjustments to our saturation here. That actually looks fine. Definitely to the luminance. All right, and we want to make sure we get all of that all the way down there. So really got to pull that hue slider in. Probably going to have to do a little bit of smoothing, i.e. feathering, bring the luminance back in. All right, and that looks like a pretty good mask, right? Pretty quickly. And just like before, I'm not saying this is the best way, just showing you that in a second here, couple seconds. Now, again, we could probably blur this. It might behoove us to do like a 0.25 pixel blur on that. 0.3. I don't know if that just automatically did that or not. Bring in the blue sky. Let's do our correction here and pull this down. All right. And then once again, if we wanted to do a couple more global adjustments, let's kind of saturate everything here. A little more contrast, just black level. I might even do a little bit of sharpening on this. All right. Come down here, vignette. All right, and we're golden. Before, after. Before, after. in just a couple seconds. Now, I know a lot of you are asking, hey, that's awesome. Can I have multiple HSL secondaries in one Lumetri color effect? No. Currently today, you can only have one at a time. It's a huge feature request. I believe it's already up on the list there. People have also asked, can I add 2 Lumetri color effects onto the same clip and then just do an HSL secondary? Yes, you can. It's probably not the most recommended practice because it's pretty heavy, but you can do it. Again, probably for doing multiple secondaries like that, that's probably where you'd use speed grade. But very quickly, as you saw in a couple of moments, this is a great way. We're not even replacing the sky. We're just repairing the sky, right? And actually, that vignette is way too much. It's kind of throwing off the balance there. So that just looks much more natural. And that looks believable. And again, we could come in here and really start to make that even more blue and take advantage of that very quickly. But really change the whole look and feel in just a matter of seconds, right? Before and after. Again, here's our
If you want to write letter A.
and after. Let's go back to our graded clips here. Before. After. All right. And one more. Before. After. And this one I might even do even some more aggressive. Drop that contrast even more. Look at that. This is what I'm talking about. Shadow detail. All that stuff was over there. You just couldn't see it before. With that beautiful film stock LUT, everything just kind of comes together. Now, look at our scopes. Yeah. All those peaked lights, blown out whites, not really reflecting it. They might still be a little, but the scopes don't lie. So again, really restoring this clip back into its beautiful state. And my friends, unfortunately, that is all the time we have. So thank you so much. Let's sing in the end. Yes, you can if you copy. Yeah, exactly. Yep, copy and paste. You can do that. By the way, that's a great thing to point out. If you've got secondaries and you want to apply the same secondary to another clip that is the same skin tone, sky, whatever, right? You're sampling and affecting the same color range. You can copy paste attributes as I showed you earlier, and that's a really quick way to do it. So everybody, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. It's really exciting to be back on the Adobe Creative Cloud YouTube channel. Come see me tomorrow on Facebook at 1 p.m. Pacific time, where I'll be talking solely about how to just quickly start a mobile workflow with Premiere Pro, whether you're shooting with an iPhone or mobile device, drone footage, GoPro footage, or even DSLR. And also starting tomorrow, we've got our multi-day live stream right here on the Creative Cloud YouTube channel, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on photo compositing. So thanks ever so much. I'm going to stick around and answer some more questions in the chat. Again, the replay will be available immediately. If you want to know more and see more of me training a lot of these things, particularly audio and video, please follow me on my YouTube channel, Jason Levine Video, right here on YouTube. And you can also follow me on Twitter at BeetleJace. So thanks, everyone. It was great to see all of you. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. Take care. Have a good rest of your week. All right.